Hello, good morning to all. My name is Manoj Kumar. I am from AKP Group 11. Today we are going to talk about the Alison Course 7, which is about environment management system. In this course, the topics covered are introduction to EMS, directions and its benefits, legacy standards, ISO comparisons, problems and solutions, certification, environmental aspects and impacts, environmental conditions, EMS policy, context and scope, documentation, change management, and issues and corrective actions. Let's see about introduction to EMS. It is an environmental management system, which is also known as EMS. It's a collaborative and systematic approach to effective managing environmental risks. EMS helps companies to improve their environmental performance continually. It also provides a framework for company with environmental audiences, regulations, state laws, and compliance obligations. Directions. These EMS systems direct organizations in the following ways: identifying the environmental aspect and impacts, examining the risks associated with the aspects and impacts, establish controls to minimize the environmental impacts, defining goals for achievement of environmental performance, create plan to achieve goals, uh, monitoring the performance against goals and target results, and reviewing the results and continuing the improvements. What are the benefits going through this EMS? It is like performance, credibility, and transparency. In performance, EMS helps the organization to identify the correct tool to improve their environmental performance. It encourages organization to willingly commit to both assessing and minimizing the environmental impacts. In credibility, the third-party verification from EMAS confirms to and authorize the credibility of the organization, as it is seen as unbiased and independent from the organization. Next, transparency, offering information on organization's environmental performance to the public is an important contribution of EMAS. Organizations attain superior transparency externally from the environmental statement and internally through the employees' active participation. Next, we move on to legacy standards. This legacy standards has two varies, which is ISO 14001 2004 and ISO 14001, which is 1996 model. In ISO 14001 2004, it is the second edition of ISO 14001, and it is compatible with ISO 9001 2000. It also states the requirements to the help of an organization to develop and implement a policy and objectives regarding EMS. This helps an organization to identify environmental aspects it can manage and those it can influence. It also has the PDCA, which is like a plan, do, check, and act model, is given importance in the standard. In ISO 14001 1996 model, it is like the first edition of ISO 14001, and it is compatible with ISO 9000 1994. It also helps an organization by offering requirements to develop a policy and objectives for EMS. As with ISO 14001 2004, it takes into account legislative requirements and incorporates information about significant environmental impacts. The major difference between ISO 14001 and ISO 14001 2015 are ISO 14001 2015 has process-based approach, whereas ISO 14001 2004 has procedure-based approach. ISO 14001 2015 incorporates both risk and opportunities whereas the other considers risks exclusively. Uh, ISO 14001 2015 incorporates the view of interested parties, whereas the ISO 14001 2004 does not include the view of the interested parties. So next we move on to problems and solutions. Problems has like three modules, which are like damage, sustainability, and standards. In damage, environmental damage includes global warming, ozone layer and depletion, and acid rain, urban sprawl, waste disposal. These are the pollutions caused by damaging the environment. Moreover, these affects people, animals, and also other living organisms in the earth. Uh, Damage to the environment has been contributed by the industry and production techniques. Business tend to exploit natural resources which have harmful impacts on people and environment. Sustainability. Various environmental groups and governments bodies are now concerning themselves towards protecting the environment for future generations. It is argued that the world needs development, but development that is sustainable without damaging the environmental. This is a without damaging the environment, which means we should give environmental good and non affected by us for the future generations. Standards. ISO 14001 2015 is a system for businesses designed to develop them to manage and improvise their environmental performance. It has been continuously revised considering the challenges businesses face in terms of legal requirements, business context, and changing conditions. Next, we move on to certification. It is expected that the large number of organizations will employ ISO 14001 2015 model to build an effective EMS. Significant number of numbers will want the recognition that comes with the certification of ISO. Certification exhibits to external parties that an organization has attained compliance with a particular standard. What are the advantages of implementing 14001 2015 such as increasing resource efficiency, decreasing waste, lower expenses, offering guarantee that environmental impact is being measured, complete competitive advantage, new business opportunities, compliance with legal applications, increase stakeholders and customers trust, manage environmental obligation with consistency. Next, we move on to environmental aspects and impacts. In aspects, environmental aspect is defined in clause 3.2.2 the of the ISO 14001 2015 standard. An element of an organization, activities, products, or services that interact with or uh, can interact with the environment. All environmental aspects can cause environmental impacts. A significant environmental aspect is one of that has or can have more than one significant environmental impacts. Impacts are such as clause is said in clause 3.2.04 as change to the environmental whether adverse or beneficial wholly or partially resulting from an organization's environmental aspects. These are subdivided into three categories: activity aspects impacts. Activity like boiler room has stack emissions and impact is like air pollution. Product design has reduction in volume and impacts conservation of raw materials. Vehicle maintenance disposal of used oil which impacts in environmental such as oil contamination. Next, we move on to environmental conditions. What is environmental condition? It is defined in clause 3.2.3 as the state or characteristics of the environmental as determined at a certain point in time. In several places, the face changing environmental conditions substitutes the deleted term climate change. The examples are such as pollutions, erosions, deforestation, depopulation, uh, glaciation, and inhospitable. Next, we move on to documentation, which are subdivided into three categories: criteria, components, and requirements. In criteria, the amount of documented information in EMS can vary from company to company due to the kind of products, activities, and service it offers. The requirements to show complaints, legal and other requirements, the complexity of process and their interfaces, the competence of employees. In components, when developing and updating documented information, the following should be included, such as identification, description, title, date, author, reference number, format, language, software version, and graphics and media quality. Requirements: documented information should have been accessible and relevant for utilization, be sufficiently protected from the loss of confidence confidentiality, improper use and loss of integrity, available for sharing, right to use, retrieval and utilization, be legible, stored and conserved, contain version and revision control, be retained and disposed of where applicable, wherever as applicable. Next is change management, which are subdivided into planning, controls, and changes. In planning, management must plan, apply, control, and carry the process needed the meet the requirements of the EMS by developing criteria for processes, applying controls of the process in accordance with the criteria, proceed producing and retaining documentary information demonstrating that process have been carried out as planned, adapting work to employees, coordinating the relevant parts of EMS with an organization where necessary. Controls: management must develop and apply and carry out the process of eradication of hazards and minimization the environmental risk by utilizing the following hierarchy of controls. Remove or eliminate the aspects: work management using engineering controls, using administrative procedures such as training and visual controls. Next, we move on to changes. Controls can be used individually or in the combination of management must control short and long term changes that impact environmental performance, including modifications to product, services, processes, work area, sites, the neighborhood, and machinery. Changes lead to the legal and other requirements, modification in knowledge or facts regarding aspects and impacts, upgrade the knowledge of and technology. Next, we move on to issues and corrective actions. Issues are like root cause or analysis of incidents and non-conformities, often identified as issues such as leaks in pipelines, lack in proper communication, equipment failure, incompetence or inability, gaps in documentations. Corrective actions, which can be examples of corrective actions or involving hierarchy of controls includes eradicating aspects and impacts, changing or reassigning the machinery and tools, establishing or applying procedures to enhance processes, enhancing the capability of employees, modifying the maintaining or frequency of equipment. That's it for this lesson, week 11's. Thank you.